Good evening. My name is Greg. I'm here tonight for a different type of broadcast. We have a very interesting show tonight. We have Ivan Harris and Curtis Peterson right here on the One Source Network. And before we bring our guest on, I want to take a moment here. And I want to really share with you so you can reflect on the meaning of what is it to have money and also debt. You know, in my life, I made good decisions and not so good decisions with money and also with the idea of what is true finance and wealth. So tonight we really hope that this show will be not only informative, but it will be a show that everyone will be able to relate to. And more importantly, I believe what will come forth as far as the education and the knowledge that will be shared tonight, we're all about sharing it from our hearts, our life experience, and the truth about what money really is in the kingdom of God. So without further ado, we welcome Ivan Harris and Curtis Peterson. Welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, now you're going to have to help me here. So I'm going to sort of, who should I ask the first couple of questions just to honor both of you?
You can start with Curtis, that's fine.
Okay. Well, Curtis, welcome to the One Source Network.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, now, Curtis, I would like to, if you could briefly share a little bit about yourself. Who is Curtis Peterson?
Wow, thank you. Curtis Peterson is a little country boy from Youngstown, Ohio originally, reside in California, Southern California at this time, and came out of the military and moved here and was with my mother's middle sister in Pasadena, California. Loved that the weather was not like below zero temperature such as Ohio, and said, this is the place for me. So I ended up staying ever since coming out of the military. 6 years of overseas duty, won a 1st Airborne Division, and so I served for 6 years and got out of the military and came to California, been here ever since. I have a little background in finances and, of course, and green energy technology by ways of solar and turbines as well. Got into a little bit of the finance side of the brokerage side of things, and then moved into what we're doing tonight, which is helping people turn their debt into wealth.
Wow, we thank you for that, Curtis. And Ivan, you've been on in the past, so could you briefly share with the listeners who is Ivan Harris?
Okay, thank you, Greg and Mr. Becker, for the opportunity, and Curtis, great job. I am basically a person that is all about service. That's been my makeup ever since I can remember. I have spent 34 years in ministry preaching, but I don't draw a salary from it, so that's why I've worked as an entrepreneur for well over 27 years. Anything that we do has always been about making an impact in people's lives. I'm a mentor, coach, and trainer, and that's really why I feel I'm on the planet, is to help people see the beauty in themselves, draw that out, and show them how they can take that beauty and enlighten the world. And so Curtis introduced me to this program because he knew my mindset and he knows what I'm about serving people. And when I saw this, Greg and Miss Rebecca, I just wanted to turn a cartwheel because I saw the impact that with God's mighty help we could make on people's lives here. So that's what brought us to this moment and doing this program that we're doing together, making an impact even today on someone's life. So I'm just totally excited about this opportunity.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Ivan. And I'm going to go back to you there, Curtis. And I think my first question would be, you know, we hear a lot about money. We hear a lot about people who are teaching about money. Some teach through the experience. Some teach because they were educated and made conscious decisions on the meaning. But very few people out there are talking about debt in relationship to money and how we think about money. Am I accurate with this question, Curtis?
Yes, you're absolutely accurate with the question. Because in most cases, a lot of people initially feel that they're thinking correctly about money, but at the end of the day, sometimes place their money not to help themselves for the long run. And that's part of why we're excited about the opportunity. Not does it just help for the immediate time frame, but it helps you for the long run, which most people sometimes does not think about or have in their mind. They're living for it today. We want to give them an opportunity not only to live for today, but have the opportunity to have something set aside for tomorrow as well.
Now, I know we have a limited time here, Curtis, so I really want to ask questions that will sort of pinpoint and put a focus on certain aspects of tonight's discussion. So, could you share with us your relationship with money and debt before you really began to understand the two and how it affects one's life?
Well, I can use my own personal experience, which is great because I've been very successful in the marketplace from the investment side, whether it's from investment in stocks and bonds and or real estate, very successful. But I would find through that process having the ability to make sure that not only was the taxes paid, that the renters was paying on time, and again, doing this all by yourself without having a management in those days, management team, having the ability to miss things and other opportunities because your time was well spent in collecting and deriving and making sure those particular events was covered properly. And you had no late pays because in those days you wanted to keep your credit impeccably as possible with no late pays. But the mishap of that is over time, because you don't have a team around you to assist you, then some of those things go by the wayside, meaning mismanagement. And mismanagement causes late pays and opportunities that could pass you by because of those things. And thus, you can lose properties and have a downside of what you're doing versus an upside.
Wow. Before we go back to Ivan, Curtis, I just have one more question, then I'll come back to you. We understand debt, but we may not understand very consciously on how we can be enslaved and how interest can really be debt's best friend. Can you explain to the listeners what that means?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. Debt is what we have on a regular basis with the interest that if you have something that costs $5,000, for an example, it might take you 15 years to pay it off because of the interest. And that's what you can be a slave to. However, if you have a right system in place, you will no longer be a slave because that same interest now, you have the ability to pay it back to yourself, thus having that same 15 years of debt from 5,000 being paid back to you in interest, thus give you the ability to multiply your income and or go out and buy other properties or other things that you might have need of, even pay for your tuition in college or your kids or your grandkids' college. So not having a way to diversify yourself to turn your debt over without having such a long time to pay it back, paying it to yourself is the way you want to go in these times.
Wow, very good answer there, Curtis. And a question once again to Ivan. And this is my personal experience, Ivan. As I grew up, like I mentioned before, made good decisions and some decisions that really weren't made wisely around finances and debt. But I also realized during those times, I never realized how debt, especially if we're not making wise decisions, can play with our self-esteem because we take our finances personal. Can you explain to the listeners how debt can really when we don't truly know who we are, how we can tie our personality and our emotional state and really come out on the other end feeling bad about ourselves when we don't make good decisions.
Sure, Greg. The bottom line with debt and people and education, here's the reality. We're never taught in school about debt and about money. We've never been taught how that works in school. Never. And so as a result of that, people go through life with an understanding of hitting and missing and a lot more missing than hitting, okay? And so as a result of that, yeah, people have committed suicide behind debt and feeling that so much of it or feeling so ashamed of it because it's on them and it and say everybody's looking at me and I'm a failure and all of this. But the reality is you've got to learn. Everybody's got to learn. We just don't know. But when you can have the right teachers, the right mentors to come into your life to share with you that it's not personal, it's debt. And somebody asked the question, what is the biggest debt that you have with this period? And most people will say their mortgage. Most people will say their rent or even a car note or what have you.
Interest.
But mainly the first two. But the biggest debt we have is interest.
That's right. That's right.
And it robs people of their dignity. It robs them of their money. It robs them of their lives and their livelihood. And people are crippled and imprisoned by interest. But the crazy part of that is, Greg and Mr. Rebecca and Curtis and everybody listening, is that debt or that interest, many don't know that every day of your life that you are in debt, you are bleeding interest by the thousands daily. And so as a result of that, when you find out just how deep the rabbit hole runs, it's too late. There are many people, you all, that are never going to be able to get out of debt because of interest. Mm-hmm. And that is just crazy. It's insane. But that's how it's been designed, and that's what's going on. But with this program, we are turning that around. People are crying because they're finally realized, I don't have to be in debt for the rest of my life. I can dream again, and I'm not stuck. I have a way with God's blessing to come out from under this chain and this prison of debt. So yeah, people personalize it, but there's hope. There's hope there.
Well, what's interesting, Curtis and Ivan, today, this morning, I was in study, and I was in Proverbs 22, if I'm not mistaken, and it talked about debt and the lender. And if we're in debt, we're enslaved to the lender. You know, so with your knowledge, Curtis, let me ask you one question. With everything that you've done associated with debt, business, you know, acquiring loans, or whatever way that you really acquired your wealth and your idea and beliefs about wealth, why did you get involved in a company like this?
Thank you. Great question. It's because when you learn that the banks are using what is yours, literally, your hard-earned dollars, and taking it and making a great sum of return for themselves. And then as the depositor, I never get to see that on my side. It's always theirs, but not yours. And you deposit, and they're able to offline do the things that they need to do to take the bank to so many different levels, but there's no benefits for you and I as the depositor. So then when I learned that I have the ability to take advantage of all those years of interest from a 30-year mortgage and as little as 5 to 7 years, pay my mortgage off and have those 23 years left of interest that turns into six figures or more for me with the remaining time of 23 years to pay myself back, where that could be my family's retirement, where I don't have to depend on Social Security. It gives me the ability to have a comfort to know, not just from a debt to turn it into wealth standpoint, but it's a legacy play that gives me the ability to pass an inheritance greater than before to my kids and my grandkids. So that's why I turned to this program, to be able to educate and help thousands and millions of people to take their own interest that they've earned, their hard-earned earnings, and pay it back to themselves in as little as 5 to 7 years, and give them the confidence knowing that if they do want to buy an apartment complex, if they do want to buy a vacation home, they have the ability now through the program to pay themselves the interest and do what they feel to do that's correct in their own portfolios, versus the bank take advantage and they're not able to yield anything as a depositor.
You know what's interesting, and this question is for you there, Ivan. You know, the area of debt and money and how much money we have in our institutions, you know, that's a part of, I believe, most people's personalities where they're not always honest. I can remember times myself not wanting to be honest around it because, like I mentioned, I really attracted some of my personality to what I had, you know, my possessions and whatever. But when I really look at being honest, then we get a better idea of who we are and how we can really take our real life experiences and learn from it, because most people, I believe, aren't telling the truth about how to really acquire debt and how to lower our interest rates. And I share this with you because I know, Ivan, you like to investigate and you like to get involved with certain companies. You're a person that likes to work for yourself. So I want to ask you, why did you gravitate towards this company? What did you do to really say, you know what, I trust this company?
Great question. A lot of times, Greg and Mr. Kirk and everyone, when things are brought to us, I'm this way. Word of mouth is how I do this, okay? And the people that come to me, that bring things to me, that carries a lot of weight. And because of Curtis and our relationship, and he knowing the kind of mindset that I had, that's why he approached, he brought it. But when he brought it, Curtis will tell you now, I grilled him. I had questions. I asked a lot of them, and things of that nature, because he knows, and I know because of who we are, you know, in terms of dealing with people, that people, you know, take you at your word. So it's very important. And then looking at the company, I've seen a lot of companies talking about eliminating debt, so on and so forth. But the thing that really sold me outside of Curtis and then doing my due diligence and looking at the company, what I love is this system is giving people their lives back. Okay? Let's just be honest with this thing. It's giving people their lives back. It's helping people to be better handlers of their money, teaching them if they don't have an emergency fund, this system will help you get one. Based on whatever amount you want, you set it. It makes sure that you pay your bills on time. And once those things are taken care of, then it goes about the business of showing you how to mathematically, as quickly as possible, come out of debt. I'm going to give you a case in point. I'm not just saying this to be dramatic. Just today, the gentleman we helped, he's now 59 years old, with just a couple of things, a student loan and a loan from that he took back from his life insurance. He borrowed against it, okay? And both of those were right around, seemed like $6,000, so almost close to $7,000. Do you know that with the interest applied, do you know it was going to take him 20 years to pay off all of that? Just those two things. 20 years because of the interest. 20 years. And then because of this program, Do you know we're going to take him all the way down to 1.7 years, and he's debt-free, period. So, what does that mean, guys? We gave this man his life back. He's 59 now. 20 years, he'll be 79 years old. Okay? But now, as a result of God blessing us to bring this program to him, he can now be free in just a year. And all that interest now, instead of going to the bank, can now come back in his pocket. I think somewhere around $200,000 can come back to him. That is life-changing, life-altering. So this gave him his life back. It gave him hope. He was jumping up and down. I'm just saying, guys, there is an opportunity to not just come out of debt, but transform and convert that debt into changing your life, a new dynamic. Like the Bible talks about, leaving an inheritance for your children's children's children. You can do that now. So that's why I'm here, because we can change people's lives with God's mighty help.
Wow. Well, Curtis, I see you're trading. I've been pretty good here. You know, he has me really open, boy. I'll tell you. But Ivan, I must tell the truth. You used the word drill when you spoke to me first about Curtis, but you also used the word grill. So could you share with Curtis that you told me you grilled him and drilled him at the same time?
Am I accurate on that, Curtis?
Yes, he actually grilled me, not just one day, matter of fact, probably a whole week or so. But it was good, though. It was really good, because you got a chance to really understand his heart for people, and that what he shared wanted to be accurate as possible.
That's right.
And have the ability to make sure what was coming out of him to others was from his heart, as you stated in the beginning.
I have a question for you, Curtis, and I'm trying to get in the mind of what a listener may ask. And what comes to my heart is this. If I'm interested in the program, do I have to release any of my money to anyone outside of me? Do I have full control with my money in regards to this program that you're speaking about?
Great question, because you don't have to release any of your money, any of your accounts whatsoever. You're actually having an algorithm, mathematical algorithm, that literally assists you like your own GPS on your phone or your desktop or tablet, that gives you the ability to have the alerts over your own account. No one has control over your monies. And it will give you the alerts and the timings when your bills are due to pay said bills, whether it's your mortgage, your car payment, your lines of credit, your commercial building that you own, your kids' tuition, your college, whatever it is that you're paying off as debt, it will then alarm you. So no one has control over your account. You maintain it. You're just trained how to use the algorithm software to now be specifically your lifetime program that you use from this point on and out. And prime example is my brother. My brother's been pastoring 40 years, and he was so excited about the algorithm software, where he purchased as well, but he had 29.8 years of debt left, and including he's got his doctorates in music and ministry. He had to pay for that. He added that. He added his new car and his vacation home, because he's going to retire from being a professor at the college in Florida in 2 years. So he added his down payment and some extra funds on top of that for the furniture. And doing all of that from 29 years, it came down to 5.1 years, and as little as 5 to 7 years, and that's including his vacation home that he's going to retire to in Florida.
Wow. May I ask one more question, Curtis? Can you explain to the listeners how most of our purchases and how we view money has to do with some of the emotional state that's triggered. You know, we can look at a commercial and immediately we think we need that at that moment. So, how do we train our emotions with discipline and real structure in regards to this software?
I love that question. And what comes to mind is a couple of things. But the first thing is that within the algorithm software, it gives you the ability to put in your amount of debt that you want to pay off. And let's say all of a sudden you see a vacation trip that you want to go on, and it's $10,000 for the entire family. That's airfare and room and board and food, your budget and everything is $10,000. Now you add that to the algorithm software. However, what that does is that emotion puts you out a little further to pay off everything versus the time that's scheduled within the algorithm software, because you will see it as something that you want to do next year or 6 months from now. And when the software immediately tells you, well, now you push your home and your debt purchasing on your schedule that you have from, let's say, 5.1 years, now it's pushed out to 6.1 years, a year later than it was because of your emotion of wanting to purchase or go on that vacation. Where if you stick to the plan itself, guess what? Then you still have that 5.1 year to pay everything off. Not saying that you don't work hard enough and you don't deserve that vacation, but it's like putting proper perspective in the proper place. So therefore, you don't allow your emotion to have that buying, that need of something right now and having that effect. We all are guilty of that one time or another. But we want to put it in a proper perspective so we're able to now be debt free, and like now taking control back over your interest. For an example of your home, now if there is an emergency, I have all of my equity in my home that I'm able to use if there needs to be, but I am not no longer controlled about my emotions. I have to have it right now based on the goal that I have in front of me.
Well, it sounds like with the limited amount of knowledge that I have about the program, Curtis and Ivan, it sounds like we become not only wiser, but we become self-sufficient as far as loaning or keeping the money that's due to us. We become like our personal banks. Is that true, Ivan?
Absolutely, absolutely. Greg, you're right on. Great job, Curtis. And just for the hearers out here, when I say grill, that's lovingly grill. Curtis and I have a great relationship. He's a great man, and he's very patient with me. But yeah, absolutely, Greg, that is correct. You're coming into this, and it's teaching us, it's showing us how to handle our money. There's a way in here you can go under reports. You can look at all the ways you're spending money. You can learn where, like for instance, like in the example that Curtis gave, like there was another couple, they wanted to go on a family vacation too, right? But they realized that they were looking at 11 years. So they wanted to add it in. So they added in the family vacation. And what they did was it boosted them up to another year, to 12 years, right? So they said, well, we don't want to do that. So you can do what-if scenarios with the software. It's amazing. And so what they did was they went back in and they said, well, where are we spending the money? Is there any other money somewhere? And they found that they were spending $200 a year at Starbucks. So you know what they did? They went in and they said, well, let's move that $200 from here and let's put it into the system and add it here. And when they did, that allowed them to have the ability to be able to take their trip, and it didn't change their year from 11 years. So that's what you're able to do with the software, is you're able to put those scenarios in, and you learn with them through doing this. So you're able to say, okay, well, this is a wise decision, this isn't, but you can work together. And what I wanted to say real quick, in addition to that, we're talking about decisions and making decisions about money. Another couple that God bless us to help, they were on a 30-year mortgage, right? And what happened was they paid it down 8 years. They just had 8 more years to go and they'd be done after all those years, right? Well, like a lot of people may be listening tonight, life happens, right? And they needed money. So what do most people do when they need money? Refinance the home, correct? So when they refinanced the home, it took them back to 30 years. Can you imagine that? Back to 30 years. So when we introduced this program to them, we were able now to cut those 30 years back down to now 5.1 years.
Wow. Well,
Isn't that amazing?
well, thank you for sharing that, Ivan. And Curtis, what I'm sensing, we have about 7 minutes left, and I feel like I don't want to ask you a question. You may have something that's on your heart that you want to share, so I want to honor that. So what do you think you would like to share that the listeners should know, Curtis, about this program?
Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and it's humbling all at the same time to the listeners as well, is that this is a proven system since 2006. The system was beta tested in Colorado, and from them beta testing it in Colorado, the people had phenomenal success. Everyone was paying off their homes in as little as 5 to 7 years. Thus, it hit the ground running, and we have this proven success in this algorithm today. Our goal in our hearts and minds is to help as many as people possible, whether you have commercial buildings that you own, whether it is residential family homes that you have, whether it's no homes whatsoever, whether it's the student loan, the graduate that has a bunch of debt that they're paying off, working so hard for, to come out of debt. We want to help any and everyone who has debt of any kind to assist them in the growth and paying that interest back to themselves. You worked hard and you belabored. It is time and it is your turn to pay yourself back. Why not take advantage of the opportunity that we have and pay yourself those years of interest and turn your debt into wealth? And last but not least, having the ability to understand why it appears that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul just to get by is because the interest and the yields that it takes you to pay it off is why you feel so desperate sometimes and feel like there's no way out. We have a way out for you. We would love to help you.
Well, thank you, Curtis. And Curtis or Ivan, do you have a website that you can direct the listeners to?
Yes, absolutely. They can go to learn more about this at www.setyoufreefromdebt.com. That's www.s as in Samantha, E as in everybody, T as in Tony, set you, Y as in yellow, O as in open, U as in under, set you free, F as in Frank, R as in run, E as in everyone, E as in everyone, okay, free, and then from, F as in Frank, R as in run, O as in open, M as in mother, and then set you free from debt. D as in doorway, E as in everybody, B as in Bobby, T as in Tom. So setyoufreefromdebt.com. And when you go there, you're going to get the education of a lifetime, Greg. I mean, that's where I was going to close and saying, if you're looking for an opportunity to understand how money and debt work and how you can turn that around and get it working for you. What the bank has been doing to us for all these years, we now can take that from them and empower ourselves, and all that money that's going to interest can now come back in our pockets so we can have options. Most of us have never had that. Options to do what we want to do. Rental property, have a retirement, be able to know how to retire now. You follow me? Most people are terrified of that, right? Well, now you don't have to be. This program is going to provide you that opportunity to know how to handle money, to be more confident in that, to not feel ashamed anymore and be able to be confident in God's mighty help.
Curtis, are you still on? Hello?
We might have lost him there.
Yeah, but why I took that pause? Whoops, one moment. Hello, Hello, Curtis?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Call dropped off. I apologize.
Oh, no problem at all. And there was a reason. I don't know if you heard the pause I took, that moment of silence, Ivan and Curtis, because I do believe when we speak God's language and when there's an opportunity as far as making our lives better, we stated before this broadcast that we prayed. And my responsibility is to make sure that God stays in this conversation, that what we speak is all the truth and nothing but the truth. So I pause to see what God's doing in my spirit and also the listeners. But it sounds like a very, very interesting software. But what I'm feeling, my wife suggested that, maybe we could have you back so some of the questions that might be brought to our attention from the listeners, they may have questions that they would like to ask. So, we'll extend an invitation in the near future if you're both open. But once again, God grants us ideas like this. He wants us to be free so we can serve his kingdom. So I just have one more question, Curtis, for you. It's about 2 minutes left, I should say. Share with the listeners why this program honors God our Father in building his kingdom.
Wow, what a phenomenal question, and thank you. I believe our Father which is in heaven, first of all, is built the foundation of the world with us in mind. He gave his only begotten Son with us in mind. Having the ability to have wealth has us in mind. He wants us to be the head and not the tail. He wants us to be able to give to those who are less fortunate and those who don't know how to get to wealth from debt. Then he wants us to have the ability to stay teachable, humble, and give fishing poles to everyone who desires to have a change in their life. So our Father, as a servant, as a pastor myself, having the ability to touch lives moment by moment, second by second, and sharing with them, the Lord is placing in our midst an ability and a way to take your debt and turn it into wealth by just managing proper, using the same monthly payments that you have now to be financial free in as little as 5 to 7 years, I believe, was placed in our lap from our Father which is in heaven to share with the world. And this is why I think it's God sent.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful, Curtis and Ivan. I think it was a show that was very informative, and also for the short period of time, 40 minutes, I think, the listeners have some idea of what this program is. So once again, before we end the program, Curtis and Ivan, could you please share that website once again?
Sure. Once again, and I'll let you know, I know I can speak to Curtis here too. We'd be more than happy to return and come back and to answer any questions as many times as we need to come. So we're open to come. And I know Curtis will agree.
Oh, yeah.
That website, once again, is www.setyou-free-from-debt, just like it sounds. Set, Y-O-U-free, F-R-E-E, from, F-R-O-M, debt, D-E-B-T.com, setyou-free-from-debt.com, and you will get the education of a lifetime. I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of websites in my time in 27 odd years or more, and that website is so informative, and you're going to learn so much. I've learned a lot in this program. I thought I knew certain things, but I got here, man, and it taught me a lot. So I'm thankful for this opportunity myself. So it's powerful.
Well, we thank you here at the One Source for spending time with us, and I do think it's a great ministry when you can help assist the development of God's people and people who may not know God, to free them up with debt and have different mindsets and belief systems about the service of finances and money. I think that's a huge part of our experience here on earth. So my wife and I, we really thank you both for sharing your hearts. You're right, Ivan. I believe not only is Curtis very intelligent and knows what he's talking about, because I can sense it. I can also sense the humility. So, to work and to be part of someone who is humble and teachable, you can't ask for more than that. So once again, you want to respond, Ivan?
No. I just said absolutely. I was agreeing with you. He's very humble, very, very great man. I'm so honored to be associated with him. So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to honor the time that you guys allotted. Both of you men wanted us to stay within that time frame. So I want to thank you both. You're listening here to the One Source Network. Once again, we had Ivan Harris and Curtis Peterson, and we thank you both.
Thank you so much for having us. We would love to share whatever time is allotted in the future. We'd love to.